All right, graph linear inequalities in two variables. First thing you have to do is remember y equals mx plus b when we're graphing. But before we do that, they just want to know how to plug stuff in and see if it's true. You have to plug in the x and the y to see if the inequality is true. So remember, this is x, this is y. We're going to plug in to see if it's true. And if it's true, it's a solution. If it's not true, it is not a solution. So you take the equation up here, 3x minus 4y is greater than 9. The x is what value? 2. So you plug in a 2. You put minus 4, and 4 times y, what is y?
0.
0 is greater than 9. Then you do the math. 3 times 2 is 6. 4 times 0, 0 is greater than 9. 6 is greater than 9. You have to ask yourself, is this true? Mark, is this true? Is 6 bigger than 9? No, it is not. So this is false. Well, I like to think of them as true or false. If it is false, it is not a solution. This is not a solution at all. You just plug it in, see if it's true. It's not a solution. All right, the same thing happens in part B. You're going to use the same 3x minus 4y is greater than 9, and you're going to plug in and see if it's a solution. So we are going to have 3 times, what's our x? 2. 3 times 2 minus 4 times negative 1 is greater than 9. Now we are going to do the math. Simple math. 3 times 2 is 6. And we are going to look at this as a negative 4 and a negative 1 that are being multiplied. What's that give me? Positive 4 is greater than 9. 10 is greater than 9. Is that true?
Yes.
That is true. This makes this a solution. It makes it a solution. So we have one that is not a solution and one that is. Okay, graphing example 2. You have to remember y equals mx plus b. So what does y equals mx plus b mean? What's the m, what's the b?
M is
M is the slope, which is rise over run. B is your starting position. We like to call it your y. And you said it's where you start. On the y-axis. Well, if we need to know that, we better know where the y-axis is. So let's pop over here. Remember, the x-axis is horizontal, the y-axis is vertical. All right, so we need to pull out those pieces. What is our slope? It's right here. Which means we're going to go down 1 and over 2. Down 1 and over 2. And what is our y-intercept? So RB is a positive 4. All right, do you remember when we were doing inequalities, and if it was an equal sign, it was a solid closed circle, and if it was no equal sign, it was an open circle? Yeah. Same thing happens here with linear inequalities. If you have a less than or a greater than sign is a dotted line, but if you have a less than or equal to or a greater than or equal to, it's a solid line. So you need to know those two things before we graph. You need to know when it's dotted and when it's solid. All right, let's graph. We find B is 4, so we go up on the y-axis to 4, and we put a dot. Then what do we do?
Go down 1, go 2.
go down 1 and over 2 and put another dot. Down 1 and over 2. You can just fill up the graph, and this is a solid or a dotted line. Anybody know? Dotted, because it does not have an equal sign. So we are going to have a dotted line. So you graphed, but because this is an inequality, you also have to shade. And I know you guys don't know what that means, but you're going to have to graph and shade each of these problems. So this is how I do it. I like to find my y-intercept. Find my y-intercept right here. Put your finger on it. And in the formula it says y is less than 4. Well, here's my 4, and this is the y-axis. Where are the numbers less than 4? The numbers less than 4 are down this way, aren't they? So everything on that side of the inequality line will get shaded. And what I mean by that is you just take your pencil, you shade. Try not to touch the line because the line's not included, but you shade the line. That's why we have colored pencils. So you can draw the dotted line and you can shade with any color you want. Example 3. This is x is greater than or equal to 4. When we had just one letter equal to a number when we were graphing linear equations, they were either vertical or horizontal lines. Does anybody remember if this is a vertical or horizontal line? Vertical. It is vertical. So you're going to, 1, find 4 on the x-axis. 1, 2, 3, 4. Put a dot. 2. Decide if this is a solid or dotted line. Well, what do you guys think? Is this a solid line or a dotted line? Solid. Solid. It's a solid line because it has an equal sign right here. So it is a solid line. So, 3, graph the line, and it's vertical. It's vertical, so it's a solid line. It's straight up and down on this board. Well, try to be as straight as you can. That's why you have rulers.
Would that be undefined?
Well, it is. The slope is undefined, but we're not finding a slope right now. But you're right. The slope is undefined. And 4, you have to shade. Well, remember what we learned last week? If the letter's on the left, the inequality tells you where to. That only works for vertical ones here. So if we want all the numbers greater than 4, x is greater than 4, well, I bet 5 is greater than 4, and 8 is greater than 4, 10 is greater than 4. That means we're shading to the right. So you get your colored pencil out, and you shade to the right.
The arrow points basically means for each unit.
Only for the vertical ones, though. Because when they're diagonal, the arrow can't tell us. It is a straight line. It's supposed to be a straight line. Okay, last 2 questions. If you look at example 1, you can't graph this until it is in y greater than or less than mx plus b. So you have to get it there. We have to solve for y. So what we're going to do is subtract the 4x to the other side and get 2y is greater than negative 4x plus 8. Then you have to get the y alone, so you're going to divide by 2. And you're going to get y is greater than negative 2x plus 4. You're going to tell me your m and your b. All right, Tommy, what is my m here? Negative 2 or 1. That means you're going to go down 2 and over 1. And what is my b? 4. So remember, this is your y-axis, this is your x-axis, and we are going to start at the y, 1, 2, 3, 4. We make a dot, and we go down 2 and over 1, down 2 and over 1, and you can fill up your graph going down 2 and over 1. Is this a solid line or a dotted line?
Dotted.
It is dotted because it has no equal sign with it. So there's my dotted line. Now we have to shade. Well, again, this is what I told you to do before. I put my finger on the y-intercept. Here I made it a purple dot. It says y is greater than 4. So I look at this piece. Y is greater than 4. Where are the numbers greater than 4? Up. 5 is greater than 4, 6. So up are the greater numbers. That means this whole side of the graph, gets shaded. And I have this fancy tool. You don't have to color in like your Picasso. Just shade. Last question. Y is less than 2. If x were vertical lines, then y's are horizontal. And the slope would be 0, so we find our y-axis. Here's our x-axis, here's our y-axis. We go up to 2, and it's going to be horizontal. Well, it is going to be a dotted line because there is no equal sign. So it's going to be a nice dotted line, just like this, the whole way across. And then you're going to have to shade. Well, where is y less than? Below. Here's 0. 0 is less than 2. Negatives are less than 2. So all down there gets shaded. And you don't have to color in. You can just go like this. I know what you mean. And then you're done graphing.